Okay, as in go? Sorry, 1 second.
Forktales, a podcast that feeds the food and beverage world.
Oh, awesome. Forktales is brought to you by Vigor, a branding and marketing agency for passion-driven, innovative restaurant, beverage, and hospitality brands. Learn more at vigorbranding.com. If you love what we're serving up, please give Forktales a 5-star review on your podcast service of choice. Think of it as a tip for good service. Hey everyone, today I am joined by Jen Kern. She has a couple titles. She is Chief Marketing Officer at Qu, an up-and-coming point of sale system for the restaurant industry. And she's also the host of Restaurants Reinvented, a podcast by a marketer for marketers. Jen, why don't you say hello, give a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Joseph, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. As you know, I'm also a passionate podcaster. So any invitation to be on a podcast, I'm like, sure, I love it. But yeah, so as you said, I'm a marketer. I'm a lifetime marketer. I believe I was born to be a marketer. Honestly, I love marketing. And, 2.5 years ago, I had the great opportunity to come work for Qu. It was my first entree into the hospitality industry as a marketer. And I am just so thrilled and passionate about restaurants and the space and the digital transformation that's going on right now in restaurants. And so it was definitely the right time, right place. And I am just thrilled about it. And so, yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff we're doing at Qu. Myself, as a marketer, believe that now is the time when restaurant marketers and marketing as a concept, marketing and branding is so ripe for anyone in restaurants to take advantage of, learn about modern marketing and what that can mean for their business.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. There just seems to be a lot of old hat thinking out there.
100%.
Pay $5,000 for an ad in a magazine and they will come, / not at all.
Yeah, 100%.
And the expectations. But so Q is really interesting to me. And I think that was the main reason for reaching out to you. Mm-hmm. And like we were talking about before the show, I got to meet Nico, the founder / CEO, right, of Qu.
He's head of our business development.
Head of business development. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. And he's a great person as well to just, discuss things with and great insights. But what interested me about Qu is it's relatively new and it's in a world where there are really strong Goliaths out there, whether you're talking about an NCR, Oracle, or something like Toast that is really hot right now as well, pun intended, maybe.
Yeah.
What was it about Qu? How is it different? And what do you think makes Qu stand apart from that herd?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of things. Like you said, it's a legacy industry. I mean, the cash register came into the industry over 100 years ago with NCR, right? Mm-hmm. And that stayed intact for a very long time. And so what happened, I believe, is, technology really lagged behind because it was mostly an on-premise in-store experience. That was what really mattered. As digital and technology started gaining a lot of momentum, restaurants really weren't forced to adopt that quickly. Now it's like much more on, higher up on the radar, right? Mm-hmm. Ever since COVID. What makes Qu, I think, unique is that we really built our entire platform for the modern era, for digital transformation, for forward-thinking operators that don't want to be technologists themselves, but understand the value and the importance of the technology platform and the infrastructure working for them. So you look at the Goliaths, like you talked about, like NCR, Micros, you mentioned Toast, which I consider not a legacy, a more modern platform, obviously. Mm-hmm. But the NCR and the Loho, what they've done is they've bolted all the digital on to the register, if you will. If it's just the most basic way to think about it. They've bolted it all on, and it's effectively the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It's
Mm-hmm.
legacy code, it's dated code, and they're bolted on the cloud. They say they have, an API first approach, but it's truly not. There are so many breakpoints when you start with a legacy product and build modern stuff on top of it. So the biggest differentiator really comes down to Q was built as a digital first POS. We now say we're a unified commerce platform because our tagline is beyond POS. We want to get beyond the dated thinking and structures of when point of sale came to being. Because if you think of
Mm-hmm.
point of sale, it was a point in the store for making a sale.
Mm-hmm.
That point is now dozens of points. It resides in your guest's hands. It's on their laptop. It's going to be voice soon. How your guests are ordering is going to continue to change, and digital is going to continue to be more and more of that experience.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. And we experienced that at Vigor through some of the projects that we've worked on. We've
Mm-hmm.
tried to engage in integrations. You have salespeople who have no qualms about selling the idea of integration and
Mm-hmm.
alluding to how easy it is with their system. And then when you get in there, you're like, "This is a rat's nest. This
Right.
is horrible."
Yep.
I always say that most developers and system engineers will say that about someone else's code. Oh, it's
Yeah.
dirty. It's
Yeah.
But
Right.
in this regard, I mean, we saw it. So there's a system out there. It's not a point of sale, quote unquote,
Uh-huh.
system. It's a loyalty system, and I'll leave their name out of it because I don't want to cast too big of
Sure.
a boulder at them.
Yeah.
We worked with them for 2 years trying to integrate uh, a proprietary POS system
Mm-hmm.
with their CRM system.
Mm-hmm.
2 years. And there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of grenades being thrown over the fence at each other. And, I'm racking my mind as to where we're going wrong because I've worked with really big integration projects before.
Mm-hmm.
So we put it on pause for about
Mm-hmm.
6 months,
Mm-hmm.
finished the online ordering portion, which is what we were building out
Mm-hmm.
the .com, quote unquote .com.
Mm-hmm.
And then we circled back with them. And when
Mm-hmm.
we circled back, things had shifted. There was one person that was still there that we had worked with. Salespeople were on the call, and we explained the scenario, what we were trying to do. And the main sales guy said, "We don't do that."
Wow.
And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" They're like, "We would never open our API to a third party system."
Wow.
And I was like, "But you did open it to us." He's like, "That must have been the problem then."
Wow.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I about tossed a table. So integration is, such a hot button item right now because
Yeah.
you have all these systems. Like if we just divide it up into categories, you have
Mhm.
POS, you have marketing, you have
Yeah.
CRM, you have
Yeah.
digital menu boards, you have
Yes.
drive-through menu boards, maybe
Yeah.
you have handheld ordering if you're a full service restaurant,
Yeah.
and yet it just seems like so many systems say they talk to each other, but they don't really talk to each other. So
Right.
how has that journey been in building and launching Q and ensuring that when you say this is a thing that integrates, that it actually
Yeah.
is?
Well, first of all, we were built and created expressly to service what we call the enterprise restaurant industry, which is fast casuals and QSRs only, over 25 locations. Now we'll go down to, 15 or 20 if it's an extremely modern, fast growing organization. But the complexity involved in those large multi unit chains is enormous.
Mhm.
And so they have, talking about the tech stack you're talking about, they have hundreds of systems. You have to be API forward in that to service the enterprise restaurant industry. In fact, you mentioned Toast. They recently pulled out of enterprise. It's too hard.
Mm,
It's very, very difficult because of the
yeah.
amount of systems and the integrations and the complexity of it. It's a lot. So the way we build our platform, it is truly a microservices, containerized, API first approach. And if that doesn't make sense to people listening, an API agnostic or API first approach effectively means the APIs are not built to work with one system. They're built from the ground up to work with any system. Now, yes, you have to go in and make the adjustments when you're actually integrating with specific systems, but they're natively modern and built to be very easy to integrate. So we can integrate really quickly with just about any system. And we believe that restaurant operators need to have choice. They need to have choice in their payment providers, particularly. They need to have choice with who they want to work with back of house. they need to have choice. And so you need to give them that API approach that allows them to integrate with whoever they need to integrate with to run an effective business. So they're not thinking about their technology, they're thinking about their food and making that great experience for their guests. And so there's a lot more that goes into it. I mean, I can talk about it a little bit more. I talk a bit of a technical game. I'm not technical, but there's more that goes into it. That's really important for the operators to make their business run smoothly. And I can give the example of delivery and third party delivery
Mm-hmm.
partners, right? So our APIs are native and bidirectional with third party delivery partners.
So wait, let's pause 1 second. So I want to break it down just a little, like
Yep.
one step further for
Okay.
those that really, really don't know. So
Okay.
API stands for Application Programming Interface,
Okay.
which doesn't make it any clearer. Um,
No.
and what it basically is when you're building a new piece of software that's API forward,
Mhm.
you're essentially building that software with the intent that other systems will be able to speak and integrate and just basically engage with that software and
Mhm.
create a two-way conversation.
Right.
And so what an API effectively is a series of commands and essentially a language that says, if you want to speak to me, these are the words to use. If I'm really dumbing it down to a basic level.
Right.
And so to be API forward means that you've built it knowing that you have to have that language that other places will be able to speak to you from or with, I should say.
Mhm.
When you're not API forward, what ends up happening is you build a system, you get it all working, and you're self high fiving because it's so wonderful. And then I guess we'll make some things that people can rope into. And so you end up adding an API. Well, the problem with that is there are so many places where that language can break down, where things aren't going to work, that it becomes an absolute mess. It becomes a dog. And
Right.
so building API forward means that you are essentially conversational
Mhm.
from the very beginning. And that's a very different approach and a very strong approach.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the third party delivery services in Q, let's unpack how the API works there.
Yeah. So just to give a metaphor for listeners, one metaphor I've heard of is if you think of Grand Central Station and all the trains coming in and out, and the APIs being at the hub and being able to connect those trains so they can flow through,
Mm-hmm.
forward and forward and backward, but not stop and have to get off and go to another train. So why is that important? There's data and there's manual processes. Restaurant operators today have no business pulling data manually and putting it into other systems. They should not have to do that. The data is flowing back and forth between all the systems. That's why that connection point with APIs is so important that you just described, and you defined it really well. And I do understand, like, again, I don't believe that restaurant operators should have to understand everything about an API. That's what the tech company should be helping them do. But because they've never really had to be really using a lot of technology and smart with technology, a lot of them just don't know. So a lot of what we do here is try to educate and inform, right? But there's a lot of, misinformation out of there. There's a lot of fake
Mm-hmm.
news coming from other POS systems. So yeah, you got to be careful. But so again, like the example of why did APIs become important for restaurants? Well, it was the integration of back of house and front of house. So when more channels for ordering started becoming more popular and off premise, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, wait a minute. I don't want to have to be doing all these manual processes between front and back. And then delivery comes on the scene, right? However many
Mm-hmm.
years ago that was. You've got third party delivery, and you can't have a single menu anymore. That single menu management platform is one of the core foundational building blocks of our platform. So you don't need to go in and into 4 different systems to change the price of one item. So when I started, down this path of the native bidirectional integrations with Uber Eats, DoorDash, you name them all the third-party delivery providers. The reason that's important is A, for the data, you can share the data. Why is that important? Because you want to talk directly to the guests. We've
Mm-hmm.
not done that in this industry yet.
Right.
It's not being done. We can't do it, and it's because restaurant operators don't have the data.
Right.
It's all in different systems siloed. And then the second reason that is important is because the process becomes fluid. It's a fluid process, no matter if they're ordering off of third-party delivery, in the store, on the online ordering website. It's all funneling back to one menu system where you can change the price. I want my hamburger on Uber Eats to be $8. I want it in store to be $6. I want it online, online ordering to be $5. With Q, you make those changes all in one place, one time.
Yep. And when you have this data collection, especially when things are effectively integrated,
Mm-hmm.
not just connected but integrated, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
then this opens up the door for another buzzword, but it is very important, which is machine learning.
Mm.
And so when you're collecting all the data, the next step becomes, how do you parse it, how do you disseminate it, and how do you learn from it? And I think that's a big opportunity that is, it's kind of right up on us right now, but we still haven't cracked it from the technology standpoint. But I want my machine to tell me, hey, your hamburger, like you said, is $6 here, $8 here, $9 here. You're losing money on this platform.
Yeah.
If you up it by 50 cents, you will see X amount profitability. And concurrently, you could actually decrease the price over here a little bit and see more quantity, which will then result in X amount more sales. Things like that, which start to get very heady and very scary for a startup restaurateur. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, imagine a world where that kind of information is coming to you on a weekly basis, where you can make shifts and then be informed to make business decisions, as opposed to going with your gut, which is essentially how we've been doing things in the restaurant industry forever.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's quite beautiful. So one place where I've seen data
Mm-hmm.
really work and a
Mm-hmm.
firsthand account is serendipitously a shared client. And this is not how we met, but when I was
Mm-hmm.
doing a little research, I'm like, oh my God, you work with EGs.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked with EGs for a little over, like, around 2 years, starting with their rebrand. And then we got into their ongoing marketing. And
Mm-hmm.
part of the ongoing marketing and rebrand sort of hybrid work was menu engineering and menu redesign, specifically
Ah,
starting with their drive-through.
okay.
And so,
Interesting.
yeah. And so when we were collecting the data, we
Uh-huh.
really only had data from their POS, which I believe, I'm not sure if it was Q at that time or if they're a
No,
recent client.
no, they're brand new.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was excited to see it, but I had
Mm.
my suspicions that you weren't there yet,
Yeah.
because the data that we got was very basic spreadsheet. We had to crunch a lot of numbers ourselves with a very complex spreadsheet that
Wow.
somehow a designer, that's me, I started as a designer, somehow I created,
Yeah.
to identify the
Yeah.
winners and losers, to find out which
Mm.
ones were profitable versus this, that, and the other.
Right.
I can't imagine how brilliant it is to be able to look at the data from Q and make those same decisions. Um,
100%.
Ultimately, we were very successful in the redesign. We saw an increase of 17% same store sales in the areas that we tested the new menu designs.
Wow.
Um, but I imagine a world for EGs where those menus become fully digital,
Right.
and then fully controllable from the Q system, like you said. So I can
Right.
change the price, it shifts, and then
Right.
how do we design against that? So
Right.
you mentioned fast casuals and QSRs are the sweet spot for Q. What
Yes.
about ghost and virtual kitchen brands?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, because
Yeah.
we actually built a product specifically for ghost kitchens and virtual brands during the pandemic. It's using all the knowledge and infrastructure and data of our basic platform. It is our basic platform,
Hmm.
um, but it's one tablet that's in your ghost kitchen that again can funnel all the orders from all the delivery people in and out seamlessly one place. And you can manage it one place in the back end as well. So it's using all the same core foundation and processes of our platform, and is great for ghost kitchens. When we've been able to, our first customer to purchase it was a new virtual brand called Stir Fry Chef that
Hmm.
was launched by Gegnis Girl, which is also known, by and owned by Mongolian Concepts. And they said, oh my gosh, we need to get more revenue in. And we have all the existing product. And their CMO, Doug Wilmarth, came up with this idea to launch this virtual brand. It's brilliant. And we were able, from the time we had our first conversation with him until we launched it at 36 of their locations, it was less than 8 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So that's what a modern platform does for you. Speed. We talk about speed, agility, and innovation. That's what we want to give restaurateurs. New opportunities come to the market. You want to launch a virtual brand, you just want to test it. You got to be fast. and you got to
Right.
be efficient. It's got to be cost effective, right? So we're pretty excited about that product. We're seeing a lot of great trends. Like the space, there's a lot of competition.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a very efficient solution. One of the things that we talk about with that happen with restaurants with the delivery providers is that buzzword tablet farms. You walk
Right.
in and there's 18 tablets, and you want to launch a ghost kitchen, you need another tablet.
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
no, 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 no. You don't need the middleware. You don't need those companies. I won't mention them because we integrate with them, that came up as the in-between layer between the delivery and the POS. You just need one system that's got that API first and API forward approach. So I personally love the ghost kitchen and virtual brand things. That comes a marketer. So all
Right.
of a sudden, this has helped marketers get more in front of the operations to elevate their role strategically within these large restaurant organizations with creativity and new ideation around branding. I mean, you look at companies like, Doghouse, which launched, I think, 7 virtual brands in like a couple months, right?
It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. So I particularly am bullish on the virtual brands and the cloud kitchens because it really gives marketing a seat at the table, where in this industry, marketers have not had a seat at the table. And, many of the people I have on my podcast will tell me, yeah, when I got here, marketing was viewed as the arts and crafts department,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know, and that is not the way forward.
Right. Yeah. It's you're tapping into my heart, because
Yeah.
when we in there, we're almost like the opposite side, where
Mhm.
operations doesn't want to be a part of the meetings, and we demand it. We're
Yeah.
like, no, 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 no. I was like, this is a
Yeah.
concerted effort. We are all a part of the same herd charging ahead. If
Yeah.
you're not here, there's no way that we can be effective, and there's no way that you can be truly effective with what we want to do together.
Right.
And I think the more that organizations embrace that cohesive leadership approach, the better they're going to be. And you see it. That's like one of the secret sauce ingredients for most successful brands out there is, everybody, like, we're all in marketing and we're all in operations. Just because one person, that's their core focus, doesn't mean we shouldn't be having the discussions. And when you do, what I have found, I don't
Mhm.
know if you have experiences as well, is one, it's easier to get buy-in on any campaigns we want to do.
Mhm.
It's easier to develop really awesome ideas for something that operations is excited about.
Yeah.
And then the list goes on of all the other benefits.
Oh, absolutely. And that's been one of the number one themes and goals. It's a pain point, but it's also a big priority and goal for the marketers I have on the call, is to break down those silos. And I have CEOs that come on my podcast as well, not
Mhm.
call podcast, as they talk about the silos between IT, ops, marketing, and then franchisees, if those exist,
Right.
right? And those silos, in order to be efficient and successful and drive revenue, they've got to be broken down within these large chains. They've got to be broken down. And why we are so excited about our system, and we just went through a rebrand here. I just led a rebrand at Q, and we rebranded around healthier connections, driving more relevant and healthier connections. And yes, it starts with the guest, obviously the food and the brand and the guest,
Mhm.
but then it's like the internal teams, driving healthier connections between IT, ops, and marketing, driving healthier connections with your franchisees, and then driving healthier connections with your tech stack.
Right.
Right. And that gets to the, we don't mean healthy, like you're eating the right food. We mean like more relevant, meaningful relationships.
Hmm.
So when IT, ops, and marketing are working off of one system with one data set, they can create goals and shared ideas around that.
I love
Right.
that. That's a great
Yeah.
way of thinking of it.
Yeah.
So when you launched, let's talk about Restaurants Reinvented a little bit. That's the
Okay.
podcast.
Okay. Now you're
Did
going to get
you?
me really excited.
No, right?
Yeah.
So did you launch that because of Q, or did you launch that before joining the Q team? Tell me a little bit of the origin story there.
No. So I had, as I briefly mentioned, I had been in B2B tech SaaS marketing as a head of marketer for the better part of the last 10 years. And it's a very churn and burn transactional sales SaaS, right?
Hmm.
Tech SaaS. And I got kind of burned out, honestly, with just like lead gen, demand gen. And I'm a brand led, thought leadership led person, human led marketer.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And so when I had the opportunity to switch industries and come to the hospitality industry, I was like, oh, this is going to be great because I'm going to get to, 80% of my budget here was in events and shows and conferences
Oh
when I
well, yeah.
started. Okay.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, this will be sort of like maybe like a pre-retirement sort of job. Like I want to travel, I'll get out. I can talk to people more, just not
Right.
sit and look at, speaking of data, sit and look at data and numbers all day. And that's exactly what I found is this lovely industry where people care about people. And it's about food and enjoyable times together, right? And going to all these shows and conferences. My first year here, I went to 15 events. I got out. I really just was like a sponge learning the industry. And because I had been through digital transformation and all these other industries from, the early 2000s, I saw it was coming here, even pre-COVID. And Q saw it was coming, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's how we were built pre-COVID to do all this stuff. By the way, we're not like, oh, API first cloud, blah, 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 because of COVID. No, we were like that before. So fast forward, COVID hits in, March 2020. And my entire plan, strategy, budget, everything out the window, just like everyone, right?
Right.
And I'm sitting around going, how can I, add value right now to an industry I see really struggling and suffering because our customers couldn't, legit couldn't pay us,
Right.
and then me all of a sudden being a little bit concerned, about our company, wow, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? No one knew what was going to happen to restaurants. I mean, it was day by day by day.
Absolutely.
So I'm a big geek about mindfulness and meditation and being present and consciousness. The current book I'm reading that has me super stoked is Eckhart Tolle, which is The Power of Now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was still, like a lot of us, forced to be still, stuck in our houses thinking, how can I help these people? How can I add value? What can I, this silly little marketer, do, that's from a tech company? By the way, you don't want to be selling tech right now to companies,
Right. Right.
So we did what everyone else did. We gave away free, for 6 months or so, we gave away free. But I realized that my experience, 20 plus years working as a tech marketer, being afforded a seat at the table as a strategic thought leader in the company, could potentially help these other companies, not only by launching a podcast about marketing and branding that would give these marketers a platform, a free platform to come sell their company and sell their brand at a time when any business was good business, right? And I saw that because technology lagged behind in this industry, like I said, marketing has lagged behind in this industry. A lot of them were not seen as strategic value added people within their companies. And we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. But giving them a platform to do personal branding for their own self, for their brand first, for their own self, and then us to have really thought leadership, strategic conversations about how to move the needle for their business. How do you do that? I don't talk about tech and Q on my podcast. I talk about how do you move your business forward? It was first through the pandemic, and now it's through digital transformation. What are you doing? Share your stories with other marketers. And out of it came this community of people that had never been asked to come talk and be on a podcast. And they're now all in this great network, which is so lovely and wonderful. And so I felt like it was a little bit of giving back, a little bit of giving a platform. But one thing I miss mentioning is going to all those 15 shows that first year I was here, it was in less than 9 months. I didn't see CMOs on stage talking. I didn't see heads of marketers talking strategically. I heard tactical firefighting coming from any marketer that I was able to talk to. Oh my God, how are we going to integrate delivery? Oh my God, how are we going to get the data? Oh my God, data. All for the right reasons, by the way. I'm not saying that's terrible, but I'm just saying I didn't see the leadership coming from marketing people at any of the shows. And I went to some marketing shows too, by the way.
Yeah.
All tactical. So I wanted to elevate that conversation and help them position themselves strategically, thought leaders. Sorry.
I love that.
Go ahead, see?
No. I think that's very eloquent and beautiful, and I can't agree with it more. What's interesting is I feel like because a lot of this industry is still rooted in that industrial era thinking.
Yeah.
I don't mean that because it sounds more archaic than it really is. But when I say industrial era thinking, it was, I have a widget. This widget is different. Let's talk about the widget. And
the widget.
We're just so past
widget.
Yeah, I don't like widgets. But it's so interesting because, when you talk to leaders that have that mentality, it's like, no, our hamburger's the best. And I'm like, of course you think that. And what
Yeah.
I always say to them is, I bet you think your kids aren't ugly.
Yeah.
And, and it's meant to be jolting and rude because it's
Yeah.
like, it's your hamburger. But
Yeah.
by saying your hamburger is the best, you are in effect saying to anyone who hasn't tried it yet that their favorite hamburger isn't good enough. And that's not a very good approach
Mm.
at all,
Yeah.
And if anyone that thinks differently, go ahead and tell your significant other they're wrong and just see how that goes for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've said that before, but I can't reinforce it enough.
Yeah.
And so, yes, tactics matter, but
Yeah.
the purpose driving it, the messaging driving through
Yeah.
those tactics are what matters more. And why don't we see more of that conversation?
Yes.
Secondly, it's interesting from that same mentality, that industrial era thinking, is I don't want my CMO to have a name in the industry because that means that he's or she is self-serving and will go beyond and leave me. And it just
Mm.
gets very bad. And I've seen
Hmm.
that too, a little bit of
Really?
not
Huh.
wanting the CMO to have a forward face. So I think of,
Oh, that's nuts.
folks like Paul Macaluso, for instance. He has a
Yes.
very big name and it's just, he's out there all the time. To me, I'm like, that's brilliant. And it's the company's job to make sure that he is supported and empowered and not always catering to his needs, but challenging him in the right ways. That way he stays.
Yeah.
But if you're with a company that is almost like the domineering, girlfriend or boyfriend, they're going to leave. And it's not
Yeah.
because they were on a podcast. It's because that you didn't provide a place for them to thrive.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, Paul, he was a recent guest on my show as well.
Yeah, he's great.
And he was a marketer.
Yep.
And this is the trend in many organizations. And it has been for the last decade, where you see, just like you see CIOs, CTOs, CFOs, whatever, becoming CEOs, CMOs are more and more becoming CEOs like Paul did.
Yep.
And if you're a strong marketer, you have left and right brain. You understand that you have to understand the data, but you also can never compromise the creativity and the
Right.
brand. And you were getting to that a little bit, like, instead of selling the widget, the hamburger, why my hamburger is better than yours, it's the Simon Sinek, which you are very familiar with. Your listeners might not, but Simon Sinek, start with why. Why should people give a hoot about your hamburger versus the next guy's hamburger? Give them a reason for coming. And I saw that, on your site, you talk about, like, people don't just come for the food, they come for the experience. Or you actually say they don't come for the food.
I say they don't buy food; they buy
they
experiences.
buy experience. And I got to tell you,
Yeah.
the experience is pretty yucky in a lot of places. I am a passionate fast casual eater. I
Mhm.
go all the time to Sweetgreen, Cava, Chopped, Chipotle. For QSRs, not as much, but Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
I'm there all the time. And I go to the ones I mentioned, the aforementioned ones, because I like the food. I'm a bowl, I'm a healthy, that person, right? The experience is often not great. Very, very often. You have
Yeah.
people working there that just don't care. And labor is a big issue, and it's very hard, and I don't want to get into it, but I do believe that the experience has suffered significantly. And that's because people don't start with why.
Yeah.
Why are you in business? It's got to be a reason besides to make money. If you're just in business to make money, Lord help you,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and when given the opportunity to, so I love that the saying on our like on our homepage of the website
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people don't buy food, they buy experiences, because there are people that want to challenge that and of course say you're wrong.
Mm.
And that's what I want. I want the conversation, because what I'll say next is, by all means, the food matters.
Yeah.
But if you take that sweet green salad and you put it in a rotten, dirty restaurant, I guarantee you it doesn't taste the same. Because our psyche and our perceptions of our senses do drive the flavor and the expectation of the food we're eating.
Right.
And you can kind of see it vice versa when you get, let's say, a bowl of Thai food at what feels like a mom and pop, so it's not very thought out. It's not very well designed.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that think that tastes better than going to a multi-unit that is very refined looking. It almost feels fake. It could be the same exact recipe. It just tastes different. And that's what we really dig into.
Yeah.
And your why, your purpose, it's beyond the capital gains and the financial opportunities. It's
Right.
beyond the best ingredients, better ingredients, better pizza, whatever.
Yeah.
It's beyond all of that, and it's something bigger. And I think
Yeah.
that's also the key to attracting and retaining top talent. And it's missed, and that's why HR should have a seat at the branding table
Yes.
to
Yes.
understand that we're not just offering money, signing bonuses, vacation, paid benefits, yada yada. It's not just that. If you can explain to your potential hires the impact that they're going to have on the organization through the
Yeah.
lens of a purpose,
Right.
that is what really is attracting people. And of course, stability. I think that's the biggest thing, that is the biggest fear for talent right now, is the perceived instability of the industry
Yeah.
because of the last year. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. And because of the lack of why, honestly, like
yeah,
look at Chick-fil-A. I mean, everyone talks about them, but you got to talk about them. Look at
yeah,
what they've done,
my pleasure.
revenue and growth wise, being closed on Sunday. But look at what they've done by some of the things you've just mentioned. Like, who
Yeah,
knows if their chicken is any better than any of the other QSRs chicken and whatnot, if it's fresh and whatnot. But you go there, the place is clean. They are lovely, lovely people to talk
every
to at the
time.
register, every single one of them.
Yep.
They make you feel special. I mean, even if I'm running in, this whole, through COVID, everyone's like, it's about speed, it's about simplicity, it's about, convenience. Yes, it's about all those things. But if I'm in a hurry, I still want to see someone smiling at me when I'm giving them money.
Right.
You
Yeah. When you're
know?
conducting the transaction, of
Yeah, I
course.
still want to see people smiling at me. And I'm a people person. I'll even talk to them,
Right.
If they don't want to talk, fine. Not a big deal. But don't be rude.
Right. And
That
that
comes
seems
down to
like
the
such a good
brand and the
adage, right?
training. Yeah. It comes down to the brand and the training and the HR, and
Absolutely.
the company ethos and the restaurant actually understanding and embracing the benefits of value of all those things.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me that when people don't quite get that connectivity.
Yeah.
And so recently, you mentioned the close on Sundays thing. I always had a soft spot for this brand called Taco Deli out of Austin. They have a number of locations,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that I love most about them is they were open from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day,
Mm-hmm.
and that was by design. They would never stay open past 3 because, their words, we want our people to explore their side hustle. We want to give
Oh,
them the space to
wow.
do what they're really passionate about.
So cool.
And we want them
Love
to
it.
be happy to come to work as a result. And I think it was working really well. Well, in the pandemic, they opened up for dinner and they made a decision to stay open afterwards. They're not going to go
Uh-huh.
back to the 3 p.m. thing. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
you've
Interesting.
really, like, I get the financial decision
Mhm.
there, but you just bit the bait. And
Yeah.
now I can't say there's much to talk about. The food's great. It is good tacos,
Yeah.
but they're missing a little piece of magic. And now I kind of wonder, well, what's the purpose really? Like, what's really driving you ahead? Because it used to be that understanding that people have a life outside of work and you want to
Yeah.
support it.
Yeah.
Now it's gone.
Yeah. It's a
So
good
we're
opportunity to give Paul another shout out because another broken egg. They
absolutely,
kept those hours.
yeah, he
Yeah.
stood strong on that. And again,
Yeah.
so much respect for him,
Yeah.
and what he's doing over there at Another
Yeah.
Broken Egg. And
Yeah.
folks, definitely listen to the episode that I did with him on Forktales and on Restaurant Reinvented.
Yeah.
Jen, how can people connect with you, the podcast, and Q?
Oh, it's all the easy, normal ways. So, Restaurants Reinvented is on all the podcast channels. If you listen to podcasts, that means iTunes, Apple Podcasts, it's Spotify, wherever you want to. You can even listen on our website, Q, which is our website is qbeyond.com. I'm going through a refresh. Don't judge me too much. qbeyond.com. You'll find all our podcasts there. For me, I'm the normal. I'm on LinkedIn, most days, not every day, but I'm on LinkedIn. You can always get me on email. And you know what I love the best is talking to people in person. Just freaking call me.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I
You don't
love
hear that
phone
often.
calls. I love phone calls. A lot of them go into spam if I'm not recognized, but drop me an email. I am all about helping restaurants be successful. I love to eat. I love food. I'm a freaking foodie beyond, and I don't want to lose the experience, not just the in-person experience, but the experience of I also want to be able to jump on my phone and order whatever I want to order fast and cheap. It's too expensive. Delivery is so expensive,
It's
but
crazy.
I want options. I'm a
Right.
modern consumer. I want options. If you're in the food business today, you got to give options to your people. And I do not believe you need to be a technology company. I believe you should stay focused on your food and the experience and let people like you worry about your technology. And I'm not doing a sales pitch.
That's right.
I'm just saying, whoever you
Absolutely.
go with, like, don't let that be your Achilles heel. Don't let that be the thing that slows you down.
Right.
Because I don't want that to compromise when I come to your place and I don't have a smiling register person behind the register or whatever, and a clean restaurant. So, um,
100%.
yeah, if
Yeah.
you think I can be of any service whatsoever, even connecting you with other people that have been on my podcast to learn from, please reach out to me. LinkedIn, email, jkern@qbeyond.com.
I love it. Definitely check out the podcast, subscribe, and please, people, spend the time to rate it. It helps us a lot. So that's Forktales and Restaurants Reinvented, and then definitely give Q a
I don't
look.
do that enough.
I know, me
I don't
either.
promote that enough. I should. I know, like ratings, subscribe. Yeah, do that thing.
Yeah. I always try to plug it, but it's a little cumbersome. But
Yeah.
for the record, it's qubeyond.com. Check them out. It's a great system. And of course, if you
Thank you.
can't tell after this, great people. Jen, thanks for coming on and thanks for all of your insights.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Always a pleasure, and all my best to you.
Cheers.
If you love what we served up, please follow us at Vigor Branding on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Medium. Forktales is produced by the team at Vigor. Audio and video post-productions provided by Zencaster. Music performed by Jet Trash and licensed through musicbed.com. Joseph handles his own hair, makeup, and stunts. Copyright 2003 to 2021, Vigor Graphic Design LLC, all rights reserved.